Hey, what is going on, guys? I'm sure many of you have heard by now that, yes, Donald Trump has been officially indicted once again, this time in the state of Georgia. I was watching it on the news last night. The indictment came out very late last night, like 10:30, and then the district attorney, Fannie Willis, came out and spoke at like 11. And I'm just like, okay, I'm not making a video on that. I'm going to wait till tomorrow morning. So I just wanted to kind of go over the details real quick on everything that's going on, what's happening here, and kind of put it all together. So, Fulton County dropped 41 count indictment on Donald Trump, along with a bunch of his lawyers and a bunch of other co-conspirators, so to speak, in this thing. Rudy Giuliani, Mark Meadows, Jeffrey Clark, Sidney Powell. There's a bunch of people in here. And basically, Fannie Willis is actually giving them the RICO charges. They are charging them with racketeering, which is a part of the RICO Act, and conspiracy to overturn the 2020 Georgia election results. Now, you have 13 counts specifically against Trump. All 19 defendants are getting the racketeering charges, which basically means the reason why she's doing the racketeering thing is because she is basically saying that all of them were a part of a criminal organization with a criminal objective. That is literally what you are having here. The other thing that I think is important to consider or remember here is, there's always been this narrative that, oh, Donald Trump wants to hurry up and win president again. That's why he's running again, so he can pardon himself. He's running again because he wants to save his ass, essentially, from being convicted of some of the crimes that he's committed. That is the common narrative that you've seen on the news. However, in Georgia, that couldn't be the case anyway, because state crimes, one, cannot be pardoned by a president of the United States living in Washington, D.C. That's number one. Number two, in Georgia specifically, even the governor does not have the power to pardon. So no matter what happens, the governor in the state can't pardon Trump, and the president, if he becomes president, cannot pardon somebody in Georgia. And, oh, by the way, let me also not forget to say that the trial is going to be televised in Georgia. This is the first trial that Trump is going to face in terms of his indictments and his criminal case, where it will actually be televised on live TV. All the other trials, no cameras, no media, completely behind closed doors. Nobody can know about it. This trial is going to be live on TV. And I really want you guys to understand how impactful that's going to be. It's one thing to go on Truth Social and tell everybody, oh, the media's fake news. It's all fake news. They don't like me. They hate me. And don't get me wrong, there is some truth to that, but it's not completely true in my opinion. But anyway, it's one thing to just say, oh, the media is against me, blah, blah. But it's a whole nother thing when the entire country is going to be watching the trial on live TV of a former president. This is a crazy historic moment. The entire country is literally going to be glued to the TV screen by the time this trial happens, which she wants it to take place in like the next 6 months, if I'm not mistaken. So you have that happening right there. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about, which is so good to see, it's crazy that it took them this long to finally do this, but for the first time ever, Trump is going to be fingerprinted and he's going to have his mugshot taken. That is the one thing I never understood about all the other courts. I never understood that. Everybody else, New York and Jack Smith and federal, whoever, you're saying that you're upholding the law and you're going after, Trump, and we got to make sure that we protect our democracy and we're going to stick it to him because he's a criminal. Well, you're saying that on one hand to the media, that we're upholding the law and order, blah, blah, blah. But then you're not fully applying the law to Donald Trump. When somebody gets accused of a crime, indicted for a crime by a grand jury, they are supposed to be fingerprinted and they are supposed to have their mugshot taken. I never understood why Donald Trump got special treatment for that. That never made sense to me, but shout out to Georgia for actually fully following the law. Whether you agree with it or not, whether you think that what they're doing is wrong or it's a witch hunt against Trump, whatever you think, you at least got to hand it to them for fully following the law and treating everybody the same. Georgia is the only place that has treated Donald Trump just like everybody else. The other places are like, oh, well, you can come in with your Secret Service and your squad cars or whatever, his little entourage cars or whatever, the motorcade, that's what it's called. Come in with that. You're not really going to be arrested, no handcuffs. We're not going to give you a mugshot. We're not going to fingerprint you. You're the former president. We don't think you're a flight risk, blah, blah, blah. Just all this bull crap. Like, if you're being charged, you should be treated like everybody else, even if you are the president, in my opinion, because at the end of the day, you're being charged. It is the state of Georgia versus Trump. The federal government, the United States of America versus Trump. That's kind of the way that I look at it. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is there's a tweet that I was reading from a former federal prosecutor named Renato Mariotti. At least I think former federal prosecutor Renato Mariotti. He said something very interesting. He said, unlike Trump, the other defendants are not wealthy. They aren't raising money from donors to pay their legal bills, which, by the way, this is 100% fact. This is not a conspiracy or me just being a hater of Trump. It's absolute fact. Donald Trump is literally raising money for his legal bills. Literally, he is taking some of the money that he has raised, that people have donated to him, and he is literally using that to pay his legal bills, even though he's already supposedly a billionaire, but that's a different conversation. According to Renato Mariotti, most people have their lives turned upside down by an indictment. That is true, and plead guilty in order to avoid ruin. Indictments like this will deter future election shenanigans. And the other part that a lot of people have basically been saying is because there are 19 individuals in this, you are definitely probably going to see people flip, which I absolutely agree. Not everybody's going to stay silent and just take this on the chin. Somebody's going to flip. Actually, probably several people are going to flip. If you ask me. And then the last thing I want to just talk about is just give you guys an overview of like all of the charges that Trump is being charged for. It's always good to get a good refresher, right? So the first charge that he got was the business falsification records. They basically said that he falsified business records with the whole payment with Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen and all that. So that happened in New York, and he got indicted for that of March 30th of this year, where he pleaded not guilty, and he is now awaiting his trial, which has been scheduled for March 25th of 2024. The second charge that he got indicted for was the hoarding of classified documents. That is a federal case. The jurisdiction is the Southern District of Florida. He was indicted for that on June 9th of 2023. The additional charges filed on July 27th of 2023. He pleaded not guilty to initial charges and additional charges, and he is awaiting trial that is scheduled for May 20th of 2024. The third charge is attempting to overturn the 2020 election. That is in another federal case. It is in the District of Washington, D.C. He got indicted for that literally like a week ago. He got indicted for that on August 1st, 2023, where he pleaded not guilty. He is awaiting a trial that has yet to be scheduled, so we have no idea when that trial is going to happen. And then we have this new case where he literally just got indicted yesterday for the election 2020 interference in Fulton County, Georgia. Indicted yesterday, August 14th. No plea has been entered yet. He hasn't even been able to plead guilty or not guilty. The other thing a lot of people brought up is this indictment could have a huge influence, not necessarily on the presidential election. I originally thought that at first, but I've changed my mind. Clearly, it's not changing his poll numbers. Clearly, his base doesn't care. So that's scary, but, it is what it is. His base does not give a damn that he is being indicted in like 4 different places. They don't care. They're still going to vote for him. They're still going to donate money to his legal bills and his campaign, and they just don't care. But this could influence the local Georgia elections. It's very important you guys understand that. The local elections in Georgia can definitely be influenced by this Trump indictment. And there are going to be some pretty highly contested elections coming up in 2024 and in 2026. So anyway, that is your recap regarding this entire situation. Absolutely crazy stuff. Donald Trump is just being indicted all over the place. Whether you think it's right, whether you think it's wrong, I'm just here to report the facts. And in my personal opinion, I don't see any way of how this guy does not go to jail. I think that in our lifetimes, probably in the next year or two, we are going to see Donald Trump end up in prison. There's just, in my opinion, there's too many things he's being charged with. There's too much evidence. I already told you guys, I think the strongest case they have against him, I think that classified documents case is very strong too, don't get me wrong, but I think the strongest case they have against him is this Georgia indictment right here. Not only do they have a live recording of him getting on the phone with the Secretary of State and saying, find me the votes, which, by the way, you can literally find on YouTube for free. You can literally go listen on YouTube right now. The recording is there. CNN, you can go to CNN.com. They have the recording. I just think that it's undeniable that he tried to overturn the 2020 election results. And I think that's one of the worst and dumbest things that he's ever done. If you want my honest opinion, there's a lot of things that I am not a fan of Trump for, right? But I do give him his credit on some things. Like, I don't think he's just the absolute worst guy in the world. I think there's some things that he's done that have been good. I definitely give credit where credit's due. But I think one of the worst things and most dangerous things about this president, and why I think that we just cannot let this guy win re-election again, is because for you to come out and try to get Mike Pence to not certify the election results and run around with this crazy narrative, stop the steal, they stole the election from me, they cheated, is just the most mind-boggling, most insane thing I've ever heard. And it really makes me question his mental status. It's one thing to just be a little, to say things that I don't agree with, or be a Republican, or, agree with certain, have a different worldview than me. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you're out here saying that the 2020 election was stolen from you and the results are not true, even though we can clearly see and verify that the results are what they are and you clearly lost, it's unbelievable. It really is. And I think that what they're doing in Georgia is the right thing. I think he should be charged for this. I mean, it's just nuts to literally call the Secretary of State in that state and say, find me the few thousand votes so I can win. Like, that is nuts. It's scary. It's dangerous. It's not good for our democracy. And we got to put that to an end quickly, So anyway, that's my thoughts on the entire thing. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.